AI is great at scaling and personalizing human taste or responding purely to buyer signals where data already exists. But for things like emerging trends or a visual vibe, the je ne sais quoi, that's where the art of us as merchants is still really important.
Welcome back to Retail Remix. Every day, Etsy connects more than 5 million sellers with shoppers around the world looking for something special. It's a monumental feat of curation, and that's where Mary Andrews comes in. She and her team at Etsy spend their days marrying human trend spotting with AI-driven personalization to create a shopping experience that's both on trend and personalized. And today, she's going to share how they do it. Welcome back to Retail Remix. I'm your host, Nicole Silberstein, Editor-in-Chief at Retail Touchpoints. And today we have with us Mary Andrews, who is the Senior Director of Global Merchandising at Etsy. Mary, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
So to start with, tell us a little bit just about what you do. How exactly does one merchandise a marketplace that has more than 120 million items?
Thank you so much for that introduction. I oversee merchandising at Etsy. Etsy is the global marketplace for original and creative goods, and my team connects what buyers are looking for with the incredible creativity of our sellers. We're translating trends, cultural moments into the categories we spotlight and the stories we tell across Etsy's front doors. And we're doing this in a variety of ways. Some areas are 100% curated, while others are a blend of the team's taste, scaled by AI.
Sorry, when you say that some areas are 100% curated by the algorithm?
100% curated by our human merchandise.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. All right, now wait, before we get too far off on the track of like AI personalization algorithms, although listeners will get there, I promise, I want to just first hear a little bit about your background, because if LinkedIn is to be believed, Etsy is the only place you have ever worked. Is that right?
It's true.
Okay.
Etsy is the only place I worked in my corporate career. Before that, I was actually a seller. I studied craft and materials and started as an independent jewelry designer, selling locally through retail shops, consignment markets in Virginia. Around 2005, when Etsy launched, I was an early adopter and I had pretty quick success on the platform. And a couple years later, I moved to New York, joined Etsy when we opened our first office in 2007. I started on the ground helping grow the brand through events and community marketing. And over the years, I've worn a lot of hats. I said I've done events, community support, have had roles in email, a little bit of editorial before ultimately focusing on merchandising.
Wow, I love that. So in a previous life, are you still designing jewelry?
I still have an active shop, but I am not actively designing.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. We're going to have to check that out afterwards. So why have you stayed so long? What is it about Etsy that you enjoy?
Oh my gosh, I stayed because the mission is so deeply personal to me. I know firsthand how transformative access to a platform like Etsy can be for someone choosing a creative path, because I was a seller. Also, I just think like the company has never stood still. I'm really energized by change and I'm still learning too. And that's just kept me really engaged personally.
So 19 years on and still not getting bored. That's a good thing. All right. So take us then inside the process of merchandising on Etsy. How are you getting all those great products and small businesses in front of customers?
It's art and science. We start with taste, cultural instinct. I'm sure it's similar to how you're tracking retail trends and news. Good portion of the week is scanning what's happening out in the world, and we're analyzing how it will impact buyer demand. Zeitgeist, cultural trends are a good example, being on top of relevant music, movie releases, any new styles or craft trends. It's a lot of fun. We even have an internal Slack channel dedicated to trend sharing, which is one of my favorites.
Oh, I would love to be a part of that.
It's a good one. The one that you open up right away. Yeah. And then from there, we're layering in behavioral data, looking at things like searches, category movements to see where demand is building outside of our typical retail calendar. And then we translate those insights into training signals for our algorithms, seeding, refining, and reviewing. So it's really this like constant feedback loop. AI scales the insight. Our merchandisers ensure it's accurately capturing their intent and that it's resonating.
All right. So you mentioned AI. Tell us a little bit more about where and how AI is being deployed as a part of that process today.
Yeah. A great example is what we call algatorial collections. Our team seeds a collection of listings with a specific aesthetic or point of view, and AI scales that to thousands of relevant items while preserving the original vibe. This has allowed us to focus on seeding a much greater variety of content across more interests and niches, while AI is taking care of matching the content to the right buyer. And that has just greatly scaled the output of our team. We're also experimenting with guided groups where we're building combinations of keywords to develop collections. These work really well for themes that need less visual cues. You can think about things like seashell bridal jewelry or gold theme gifts for a 50th anniversary. All of these collections show up as interest modules on our homepage. Many of the recommendation sets that expand on the homepage as buyers give us more signal about what they're into. So you could think about this as like I might have a Baroque themed decor module on my homepage. And depending on what your style is, you might see farmhouse or Amalfi core vibes.
Oh my God. So many
Yeah.
buzzwords thrown in there.
Right. I mean, there's so many. We've had a lot of fun expanding what we've been able to do. And in the last year, actually, we've restructured our merchandising team to provide greater focus on producing content at scale across a wider set of categories. So before, we had standard arms for vertical categories, site merchandising. This is very traditional. And now what we've done is we've built out 3 arms that span vertical categories like home and living, horizontal categories like gifts, weddings, fandoms, and what we call a merchandising programs arm that's more focused on that 100% human curation, where that total human oversight really does matter. These are things like our new arrivals, ones to watch sellers on the rise, co-created drops with sellers and influencers where we need to be fully hands-on. So the team is able to focus on more categories, more content, while AI is helping us scale that and do the personalization for us.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I think with this new structure, we've also developed completely new roles where merchandisers help train and review models. And we're calling this HQE and BQE, think human quality review, visual quality review, where our merchants are teaching systems how to understand quality, attributes, and relevance. And this kind of training is really new and exciting. And it shows up in search, where we've been able to achieve much more accuracy of attributes like material, color, dimension, and size.
Wow. Very cool. It sounds so intricate, especially because what's happening in the world is changing every day. What's trending is changing every day. I imagine that it involves a lot of coordination with other teams at Etsy across like the product and engineering units. How do you go about balancing the art of what you're doing with the merchandising and following the trends and personalization with the science side, the e-commerce infrastructure?
You're so right. It absolutely requires close partnership. We balance that art and science by making sure neither operates alone. We're constantly experimenting, learning where models are strongest, where human curation is still essential, and where the blend of both fills a white space. AI is great at scaling and personalizing human taste, or responding purely to buyer signals where data already exists. But for things like emerging trends or a visual vibe, the je ne sais quoi, that's where the art of us as merchants is still really important. And then one piece I think is really key is that our engineers value merchandising expertise. They've seen the difference in quality for feeds with our team's input. And it's a really proactive partnership where we truly are working together to unlock something great.
So would you say that the bulk of your team's work is apparent more on the homepage, that moment when somebody arrives before there's the behavioral signals that you mentioned?
That is the front door, and it is a blend of our team's work with fully curated experiences, but the work of our team expands to other surfaces like the app and a lot of our marketing channels. So when you open up an email or you're looking at a gift guide, that's the work of Etsy's merchandising team too.
Okay. Now, a couple of years ago, Etsy made a really big statement with its Keep Commerce Human campaign. They really took a stance as AI was starting to take off. How does that ethos translate into your team, the merchandising and engineering culture at Etsy?
It's everything. Yeah. Keep Commerce Human is our company mission. So everything we do is in service of helping more people experience the creativity of our sellers. One of the biggest unlocks for us has been true partnership, like I said, with product and engineering, and the fact that they proactively want to build with humans in the loop. I think that that's really special. And the more that we're able to put the right sellers in front of the right buyers is a win for us.
So now, after owning the resale marketplace Depop for 5 years, Etsy just sold the platform. I know that you, of course, weren't involved with that like decision or process, but I was wondering what your involvement was with Depop over those years that it was part of a sister company, if you will. Did the merchandising process and philosophy on that platform ever trickle over into how you started doing things at Etsy? Because they are two very different sites.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, from a merchandising lens, the knowledge sharing between our teams has been really valuable.
Hmm.
Depop has such a sharp pulse on Gen Z
Yeah.
culture, how identity shows up through style, merch that feels relevant. We've been able to share what we've built at Etsy around scaling discovery for broader audiences. And we also had some nice rotation opportunities between the two brands that fostered learning a new role kind of in the safety of being under the same umbrella. So I think that that was nice. I'm really excited to see them succeed in their new chapter.
Yes, I'm also very excited to see what happens next. It does feel like a natural next home for them over at eBay. So we'll see how that all
Yeah.
plays out. Now, Etsy is known as the place to find really unique, non commodity products, but algorithms also have a reputation for kind of homogenizing things. So, how do you balance those two things, like the need to use technology to curate Etsy's vast inventory while still maintaining what really makes Etsy special and stand out among other marketplaces?
It's a fair question. Algorithms can promote sameness if they're optimized for popularity alone. But at Etsy, AI doesn't replace uniqueness. I think it helps surface it. It enables truly personalized niche merchandising. So instead of programming for one size fits all audience, we can connect very specific collections to the buyers who will appreciate them most, which I think helps amplify what makes Etsy special, really tailored to the individual. Intent plays a role too. When someone has a really specific intent, AI can narrow quickly and deliver precision. When they're browsing, we intentionally widen that aperture to encourage discovery, promote more of that special thrill of the hunt or the windows into what you might not have known was available on Etsy.
Etsy also has been a first mover in integrating with AI answer engines like Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini to really be one of the first to trial selling directly on these new platforms. How are those initiatives and really just the rise of AI commerce in general impacting how you approach your job and what the Etsy website, the role it fills in this kind of emerging world?
Yeah. What's really exciting to me about these channels is that it's a new landscape where shoppers who might not have thought of Etsy can discover our sellers' work. I'm also energized by how well these systems interpret intent, not just keywords. So when someone describes a feeling or an occasion or, again, a vibe, I think Etsy's positioned really well to surface something special. And where I think merchandising plays a role is in understanding buyer trends in these new channels. I'm going to be looking to learn about where are buyers coming from, what items are resonating with them, what categories are better served from these types of answer engines.
Oh, that will be really interesting to see. Because, even as you were speaking, it did remind me. I mean, Etsy sellers are often among the first to jump on new trends. Like when something takes off on TikTok, the small, like mom and pop woman out of her garage seller is often one of the first people who can turn it around into product and get it selling. So it's true that makes being in these AI answer engines also puts those products right there as people are looking for them more quickly than maybe traditional retailers can't. It's very
Yes, I
interesting.
love that. I love that. I also think that those are the types of items someone might not have the exact words for because they're first to market. And so, again, it's like these answer engines really understand someone's intent. You can describe what you're looking for without naming the thing. And again, I think this is where we'll be very well positioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at your work and how you go about merchandising today versus when you started, I guess not when you started at Etsy because you weren't merchandising specifically back then, but when you first started in this segment of the company, what are the biggest changes over the time that you've been doing this at Etsy?
The scale is different now. The mission hasn't changed. In the early days, merchandising was very one-to-many. We had a single point of view on a mostly desktop experience. We were programming for a broad audience. It was really hands-on, somewhat scrappy, highly intuitive. As we grew, we had to translate that point of view across platforms, app, social, news surfaces. I remember when social media first shifted the landscape, and it was hard to imagine entire roles dedicated to those platforms, and now that's foundational. This AI era feels similar to me. We can match buyers with content that's far more relevant to them on such a larger scale and spend less time on the mechanics of programming, more time developing collections across a wide range of tastes and styles. And it's really exciting to be unlocking completely new ways to reach more buyers with the best of Etsy. Just to give an example, spring is really on my brain right now. And in the past, we would have had to have run a spring dresses hero that everyone, no matter who they were, would experience. Now we're able to seed hundreds of spring fashion-related collections that maintain the merchandiser's intent and are scaled and personalized for a much wider audience. So no matter who you are or what your interest or spring aesthetic is, you'll be met with something that's more relevant for you.
So to your point, short of homogenizing the experience, it's making it more and more curated to different people's tastes and desires and time zones. I'm on the East Coast. I'm not thinking about spring yet. That feels like dangerous. I don't want to get my hopes up.
That's exactly it. Yes. I know, I'm wishful.
Yeah. Where do you see all this headed then, both kind of for Etsy and the industry as a whole? Like with all of these new tools, I have to imagine that merchandisers, like many of us, myself included, are kind of worried about where they'll fit into the future as machines begin to be able to do more and more of some of the things that were manually done by humans.
It's true. Things are moving fast and that can feel unsettling, but it's also incredibly exciting. At Etsy, we're leaning in. Instead of being afraid, we're redefining what it means to be a merchandiser today. It's not just about selecting products anymore. It's about shaping the systems that surface them. AI changes the mechanics of the job, but it doesn't replace human taste. So my advice to other merchandisers is to run towards the tools, not away from them. Use AI to drive efficiency, whether that's in your reporting, scaling content, analyzing trends, so you can spend more time doing what only humans can do. That's spotting cultural shifts, defining aesthetics, creating cohesion, understanding truly like first to market trends.
Which also is kind of the fun stuff too. So that's
Totally.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It allows us to do much more of the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just strongly believe that the future still needs people with distinct taste, deep inventory expertise. If anything, that becomes more valuable.
Very reassuring. Okay, before we let you go, we have our mixtape segment, which is some more kind of lighthearted questions. You ready for some of those?
Yes.
What is your favorite Etsy purchase of all time?
That would have to be my wedding band.
Oh,
Yeah.
good one.
We worked with a seller in Germany on a custom band that contours my engagement ring, which is vintage. So, needed to get something custom. And inside each of our bands, we have each other's fingerprint imprinted.
God.
Just so special.
I didn't know you could do that. That's so cool.
I know. Only on Etsy.
Right. Yeah. I have to say, I think in my house, some of the things I love most are those unique kind of only on Etsy things. There are people who fold books and turn them into pieces of art. I have a few of those and they're gorgeous. It really is still the place to find that one of a kind thing. And in your case, it's really one of a kind with fingerprints etched in.
I know. Yeah. It's a really special way to personalize.
Yeah. So you've spent your career at Etsy, as we established, but I wonder if there is any other job out there that you find really interesting that you'd love to, know what it's like behind the scenes.
I have always thought it would be fun to shadow the Spotify playlist editors. They're like the merchandisers of music, and I feel like they just get to shape culture every day.
That's kind of the same job, but in a different medium.
Yes, exactly. They're doing really exciting things.
It would be really cool to see how that whole operation works. So you are an artist by training, right? So what is one crafting technique that you wish you were better at?
Sewing.
Oh, that's mine too. Always.
It is. I could thread a machine. I could do a straight stitch well enough to do a hem, but I would love to be able to, make quilts or stuffed animals
Right? Or dresses. I mean, if
for
you
my
know how to
girls. Yeah.
sew, there is so much stuff that you can do. I'm at your level too. I'm kind of like I can make a curtain. If it's a square, I got that. But anything beyond, yeah. So, and I think it's a useful craft too, right? You're not just making something that's going to end up gathering dust on the shelf. You can create something that will actually be used if you create it in a way that it doesn't fall apart.
Exactly. Maybe there's hope for us yet.
With enough YouTube tutorials, perhaps. So you're a Richmond native, right?
Yes.
But you also, as you said, you lived in Brooklyn for a while when you first started at Etsy. Which place do you think has a better creative energy?
Ooh, good question.
Am I asking you to pick between your children?
That is that kind of a question. Richmond's creativity feels intimate and contagious. There's a great food scene. We have an amazing art scene. My time at VCU really did shape me, and that energy is all still really alive and well here. But I feel like New York is creative energy at full volume. The scale and speed are just different.
Yeah, and there's the number of people contributing to it. It's kind of hard to compete with the population size.
Right.
So you also were a bit of a pioneer when it comes to remote working. You were doing it long before many of the rest of us, before COVID, right? Can you give us a pro tip or pro tips for working from home well?
I think connection and visibility really matter, especially when you're remote. So being present, showing up in the digital spaces, for us, that's Slack, the Google Meets, not waiting for the one-to-one, finding ways to ask questions, making the small talk. I always take it as a really big compliment when someone says they didn't realize that I'm not located in Brooklyn. We all probably have a few people we can name that are remote, but just you can feel their presence through the screen. And that's the type of energy I try to strive for.
Well, that makes me think too. I mean, this is my biggest pet peeve. Like, turn on your camera also, on
Yes.
team meetings.
Use the emojis.
It makes me feel old, but I'm like, guys, just turn your camera on. We should see each other's faces, even if we're not in the same room.
100% agree.
All right, Mary. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been so fun to learn a little bit more about the inner workings of the Etsy machine and the magic that kind of makes it such a special place to shop. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. As always, we'd love to continue the conversation with you all on LinkedIn on the Retail Touchpoints page. Let us know what your favorite Etsy purchases are, or if you feel strongly about a different town with good creative energy, come by and tell us what you think of this episode and anybody else that you want to hear from in the future. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Retail Remix. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. Until next time, keep mixing it up.